everyone. Thank you for joining us for this epic reveal of version 3.0, also known as TestProject X. I'm Mital, the head of community at TestProject, and I'm pleased to see each and every one of you here with us. Today, we will reveal the secret behind the X, and believe me, you are going to love it. Here with us, we have a special guest joining the party. The first one, Marat Strelets, one of our amazing co-founder and chief architects. Say hello, Marat. Marat,
Hi, everyone.
can you hear us?
Yes, I do. Hi, everyone.
And Eldar Krovetsky, another one of our fabulous co-founder and CTO. Say hello, Eldar.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
But before we start, let's review our agenda for today and go through a few housekeeping. So we'll start by understanding the motivation behind TestProject X. Then Marat will open by discussion common bottlenecks in the test automation and how to solve them. We'll have more live demos from both Marat and Eldar. And with a bunch of time that we're gonna have left for us, we're gonna answer all of your burning questions. So get ready for this. And of course, by the end of the event, I know you guys are all curious. So by the end of the event, you will receive to your email a recording of the webinar, a special X certificate for you to share with your friends about this amazing release. And make sure to stick till the end when we'll also announce our Xbox winner. So please feel free to ask questions in the dedicated Q&A section in the Zoom, and we will make sure to address them, as many of them as possible, and as usual. So let me talk to you before that about something that is super important for us. It's the actual motivation between the TestProject X. So in the need to deliver high quality software at speed, we need to simplify and enable fast release cycles for all, no matter your skill set, whether you are a beginner or an expert. So from now on, everyone can achieve that and dramatically reduce your time to market. Isn't it great? So another big aspect of TestProject X exciting capability is to really help us overcome the gap we sometimes see between testers and developers, and aligning your testing teams to fast-paced agile development lifecycle. So basically enhancing the collaboration between testers and developers, having us all use the same tools and manage to work together as a true and real team. So TestProject X is here to the rescue, and now you're going to see it in firsthand how it actually works. So I know all the excitement around, but now that's it. That's the moment of truth. So are you guys ready to discover the X secret? Let's go. Marat, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Mital, for this kind introduction. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today. So, yeah, as Mital mentioned, today we are revealing the TestProject X, which you're all anticipating so much. And we're going to talk about the release of the bottleneck, the struggle and the problems and the challenges that everyone experiences whenever he starts to work on test automation. What are the problems that needs to be resolved? What are the most painful aspects of test automation? And perhaps the one that disturbs everyone at some point when scalability is required is the bottleneck created by having multiple tests with different data that needs to run as soon as a new version is being released. And how TestProject X is going to address this problem, and what are the solutions currently available, and what TestProject X now allows doing and is actually there to resolve this in a better form. So when we're talking about test automation, it always takes time to provide appropriate coverage for the application features that are required from version to version. And we always struggle to release them as soon as possible so that the version can be released in a timed schedule based on the application needs. And of course, it always involves the infrastructure that is needed in order to create this test automation, and it involves cost of the different resources that are required to create and maintain this infrastructure. And usually what is being done is that different other teams, such as the DevOps, or when it comes to test coding and other aspects, involved in this whole process. So the original goal to cover as many targets as possible, particularly browsers or devices, to make sure that the application works correctly on these targets on every cycle. And the multiple different data that needs to be examined on all these tests are creating a bottleneck because it takes time to verify all of these cycles. And sometimes it even comes to a point where it's not possible to overcome this obstacle using a standard serial execution. So simplification of integration into CI and CD pipelines is always an issue that and is something that usually the DevOps take care of, so that things will do and perform the automation automatically on every release. And of course, as usual, TestProject is here to simplify things and to make things much easier than it usually is in the current industry by providing you the tools of starting and engaging into the TestProject, into the automation and using TestProject, making it simpler and easier than it usually is. So we are talking basically about the capability of TestProject to execute these tests on premises. You don't need to store anything anywhere, especially because we have now the TestProject CLI available for you for an offline execution. And still, it is scalable and it is capable of executing your tests. But we do still need to address the bottleneck created because we have the variety of different targets that I mentioned before and other things that we would like to cover. And of course, but not last, is that we would like to address the dependencies that sometimes we have between the tests, such as, for example, when a test performs a separate login, and then there are some sequences that needs to be run, and some finalization steps. So we'd like to break this paradigm, would like to address these issues once and for all. And here we are heading to the next slide, which will basically talk about the serial execution method that we have so far on TestProject. So serial execution is basically when you execute tests one after another, as I mentioned before, and you have to wait for one test to finish before you start the other test because they depend one another. As I mentioned, for example, the login sequence needs to precede the actual test steps. And when we are talking about the scalability, it means that if you would like to execute the same suite of tests with different data, it might require you, instead of on average, let's say 1 minute per test, with different data set, it might require 10 minutes because you have 10 rows down to address in your data set. And when it comes to different browsers coverage and different devices coverage, you can see this equation here, which speaks about 1,000 tests on 3 browsers with 10 data-driven iterations. It comes to 500 hours of execution. Not only did you capitalize all your resources for this automation, someone needs to maintain and scale this infrastructure, but also it's lots of time and doesn't allow you to squeeze all these needs into your agile performance and your basically your targets on time before you need to release a new version. So the serial testing is just not capable of overriding these obstacles, and it is impossible to achieve this coverage with the serial execution. So having said that, we are heading next to the alternative, which is the parallel execution, which is probably known for you all. And the parallel execution is basically a method that allows you to execute your automation in parallel on different targets, or even executing your tests in parallel on the same target, including different browsers, including different devices. Would it be a physical device or a virtual device, such as the Android emulators and iOS emulators? So parallel testing is basically the answer that increases the coverage and allows you to achieve a faster time to market, so that your automation will be able to resolve and test all the things that you would like to be tested on time before you have the application version release. So the question is, okay, so if this is the solution, what basically TestProject X, which we're announcing today, and I'm so excited, you know, guys, I'm so excited to announce this today because this is the breaking chain. This is the basically the holy grail of the whole automation that has been existing so far. So TestProject X, the version 3.0 that we call right now, is basically the solution for this whole problem of the bottleneck that we have been talking about so far. So bear with me, guys. There's still a couple of things that I would like to talk with you because we have other things in our agenda today. We will have our CTO talking about another great feature of the TestProject 3.0. But this is the first thing that I would like to introduce you to today. Okay, so the test project agent, which is basically the executing agent of everything that is happening in the test project. And you can see here that sometimes we can use the test project hybrid cloud to execute the test, and we can use the test project CLI to execute the test on the agent. And until this moment, it was a serial execution of any package, any test, or any job that you would like to get executed. But since version 3.0, the test project X that we are willing today, it is a single agent, guys. So it is a single agent which is capable of executing multiple tests and multiple jobs at the very same moment with different data, and doing this in parallel, saving this precious time and reducing this 500 hours that we were talking before to a much lower number. Okay, so it's only capable of executing different targets, as I said, it's also capable of executing the data-driven execution. So you can see here that this table basically presents the different data that these tests are being executed on, and it can be executed on all these different browsers and even devices, okay? And we introduced something called the worker here, which is basically a separate process that is running under the test project agent, capable of running this separate execution. Of course, there are aspects of resources that are currently being estimated, and you have to take care of stuff like, for example, you need a stronger CPU or need more RAM to execute this multiple browsers and so on, etc. But the single agent is capable of executing multiple targets and multiple tests at the very same moment. And the most interesting thing here is that you don't need anything else. The test project agent, you're going to see it in a moment how it happens instantly. And then you basically create a lab instantly with a single agent capable of executing on multiple devices and multiple browsers simultaneously. You don't need DevOps. It's absolutely DevOps. You don't need someone to maintain and create this infrastructure to you. It is happening on premises. You are not using the cloud providers such as, let's say, South Labs or Browser Stack. It all happens on your computer. It is a minimal footprint because the agent is very small. You download it and you install it in a few moments. You're going to see it in a moment in our demonstration. And you don't need alternative solutions such as Docker or the Selenium Grid to make it happen. It is simple, just as this. It happens in a jiffy. You don't have to invest. You don't need any preliminary knowledge. You don't need any additional skills to make it work. It all happens instantly with a single test project agent that takes care of it all. So having said that, we will head now to some comparison of an existing options that you have to handle this basically need of releasing the bottleneck, and then what were the alternatives until the test project X has been introduced. At this point, we are heading to our next slide here. We'll talk about the standard Selenium Grid that presents the solution for the web test and for the mobile test using the Appium. We'll talk about Docker, and we'll talk about the test project 3.0. So the setup time for the Selenium Grid is quite long because you have to install Java, you have to set up the hub, you have to set up the nodes. And then when everything is playing nicely together, you are able to distribute your tests over multiple machines that you still have to maintain, and each of them presents you with the targets that you would like to utilize. For Docker, it is also quite significant time of investment because you have to set up all different Dockers. You are basically creating the hypervisor, will be the orchestration or whatever it is, the Kubernetes or any other infrastructure that you are going to use. And of course, it takes time. It requires knowledge. It is something that usually DevOps or people with skills and knowledge taken care of. Here in test project, it happens instantly. You just install the test project agent. You don't need any preliminary knowledge. Even people who are manual testers are capable of doing this. It's a simple setup, which takes a couple of minutes to get executed. You will see it in a moment. And there you go. You just have a way to parallelize your test to resolve the bottleneck in a jiffy. The complexity of using the Selenium Grid and setting up the nodes is quite high. You need some advanced and preliminary knowledge to make it work, such as the Docker, as I mentioned before. This is something that DevOps take care of. In test project, you have none of this. It is all built in. It is very user-friendly. It is self-explanatory. We have plenty of documentation on how to do different things. So you basically don't need any additional preliminary knowledge to get started. The velocity of the Selenium Grid is limited by the amount of nodes that you configure. And in Docker, it's limited by containers. But in test project, it's just limited by the hardware that you are utilizing. So if you have a stronger computer with more RAM, it just means that you can run more browsers simultaneously. The skill that you need with Selenium Grid and for the Docker are quite significant. In TestProject, as I said, it's all done for you. It's all abstracted and it's all wrapped in a single package so that you can get started right away. The maintenance for the Selenium Grid and for the Dockers and the infrastructure they need is quite high. You still have to invest resources and capabilities and maintain these things. In TestProject 3.0, none of this. It just comes straight out of the box. It's a one-stop shop. You just install the agent and there you go. We'll see it in a moment. We, of course, can run with the Selenium Grid the API mobile test. It is also possible partially in Docker with Android. On TestProject, it supports it all. It takes care of Android, takes care of iOS. It even takes care of iOS on Windows. For web browsers, we have support in Selenium Grid and Docker. In Docker, it's quite limited. In TestProject 3.0, we support it all. We support any major browser that currently exists on the market. And of course, the headless and the UI options are possible in the Selenium Grid. And it's partially possible on the Docker because Docker are headless Dockers. We can, of course, install VNC and stuff like this, but usually it's limited to the headless browsers. On TestProject 3.0, you are not limited to anything. You can get started right away. So TestProject is kind of a very good alternative to these two guys here, even though this provides you with different capabilities and different other advanced options, but the maintenance and the learning curve that you need for getting started with this is quite high. With TestProject, it just happens instantly. So bear with me, guys. As I said earlier, we will have another part of TestProject X 3.0 revealed in a moment. Our CTO is going to talk about this. And I'm pleased and excited to end this presentation now. Thanks for bearing with me. And switch to a live demo now of the TestProject X 3.0 environment in action. Okay, so we'll start with actually downloading the agent as I promised. So we'll head to this agent section now. Head to this download section. We have the agent 3.0 that has been published just a moment ago. I'm going to download the installation for macOS, and it happens quite instantly because it's quite small. The footprint is quite small. And as I said before, the experience is seamless. All the major operating system. It's for Windows, macOS, and Linux. It happens instantly when you download the right version. So we have the installer right here, and we're gonna install it. It is very convenient. You don't have to set up anything. It happens in a jiffy. I'm just typing my password here. Okay, so whoever is not familiar with TestProject, I'm going to show a couple of things that hopefully will amaze you, because it's very simple. Again, TestProject is all about simplicity. So this was the whole installation. It's all done. Nothing else needs to be done right here. So I'm going to start the TestProject agent now by just starting it from my applications. Okay, and you're going to see that a new icon appears here. This is the TestProject agent. It's currently starting. Okay, and the way to connect the TestProject agent to the platform is basically by associating the agent with your account. So once it's there, we're going to head to the agent section. Okay, because this is register. Okay, and it says agent is not authorized. Click here to register with your account. So I'm going to register it. I'm going to call it the parallel execution. Our demonstration needs. Okay, register the agent. The registration happens instantly. It's successful. Okay, once it's done, we're going to see an agent appear here. And this agent is basically the hub of everything. It knows what browsers are currently installed. It knows how many logical processors I've got, how much RAM I've got. Everything is right here. If I would have any devices or simulators, in my case, I'm running on Mac, so I have my all iOS simulators are currently appearing here. Okay, so just again, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you how I create a simple web test on our example web page. So this is the example web page. Okay, then I'm going to head back over here. I'm going to code an example. Okay, I have to create a new application. This is the application that I'm going to record on. Okay, and here we go. So it took me about 3, maybe 5 minutes to get the agent installed, configured, and associated with my account. Now, what I have right now is basically a way to create an automated test. It's so simple, so easy. I just come over here and type in some name and then default password. And then, as you can see, everything I'm doing is being recorded here on the side. Okay, let's just choose some country here. Type in an address. Okay, and then some email. Okay, and then phone number, save it all. And now let's make sure that the test was successful by making sure that this label here is visible. Okay, so this is my test. Let's run this test. You'll see that it basically repeats the very same steps that I have been doing before, but it looks like for some reason it's a bit slow. Okay, some change here needs to be done. Anyway, let's just release this here. Okay. And I would like to change something. I would like to change the execution speed to minimal. I would like to make it fast. I would like to turn off the automation systems because this site is very static. It is behaving very well, and I don't need all these advanced capabilities. Okay. And now we can see that the test has been executed much faster. And the next thing that I would like to do, I would like to emphasize this test a bit. And I would like to change the hard-coded values here into a parameter. Just for demonstration purposes, I will call it the address. Okay, and this would be the default value. And I'm going to save this step. And the name is also going to change into a parameter. Okay, and this will be the value. Okay, I'm going to save this step. And one more thing I want to do is you can see these parameters here. I want to remove the application URL parameter because I don't have any different environments. Just going to remove it, replace it with the default value, and that's it. This would be my test. Okay, so having this test now, I can basically close the recorder, okay, and I can execute this test on any of the browsers that I currently have on my computer. So let's just run it really quickly, okay. And while it's running, you will see basically that the new browser is being spawned here in a moment on my bar here. Okay, so now it happens. Okay, it didn't have any default value, so I have to save it again in a moment. So just
I think that you forgot to select the parameter. You created the parameter, but forgot to select it.
Yeah, so I have to type here the parameter name, of course. Thank you. Okay, it's going to be much better. But again, since it's running too fast, I would like to add something here just for the demonstration purposes. We've got something called the pause action. Don't use it, guys. Just for demonstration purposes. And let's make it pause for 10 seconds. Okay. And the reason for this pause is that I want you to see actually what are the gains that we are having from the parallel execution. So now when we have this test, what I want to do next, I would like to generate a data source. Okay, so we can do use this option of the CSV parameters template. Okay, and I'm going to open it in my text editor here for just a moment. Yeah, probably the Visual Studio Code. Okay. Okay, so we've got the address and the name. So let's make it 123 York. Okay, and the name will be Joan, and it will be 345 Deal, and the name would be Lucy, and 567, and Andrew. Okay, Andrew. Okay, so this is our data source, and this is, I mentioned to yourself that this is basically like a credentials or something that you're using for a login sequence that you would like to test, or any other data-driven execution you would like to perform. So having these now, I'm going to upload a new data source here, call it DS1, for example. Okay, drag this CSV file, okay, and create it here. And guys, bear with me. As I said, we have more coming. So give me just 1 second to complete this demonstration here. And now we have a data source and a test. What I'm going to do next, I can basically execute this test now on multiple browsers. So let's say Chrome and Firefox, okay? And this time I would like to choose the data source, okay, and run it, okay? So while it's running now, we can basically see it happening instantly in a monitor, okay? We will see that few things are being executed here, okay? So you can see the browser spawned. You can basically see in the monitor here, this execution is kind of appearing as initialized, but it's already running here on my computer. So we can see things happening. And as you can see, it inputs the different data every time, okay? And probably will fail because I didn't choose the address. So it inputs an empty address, but it doesn't matter, okay? So we can see what has been happening here. It was an execution taking place on Chrome and it's still running, okay? And now it's running in Firefox, okay? This is something new. This didn't exist before. This is the monitor for the revised UI, okay, that we are currently showing for the progressing executions. And eventually, when this test is finished, I can open the reports here. I can refresh it, and we will see an execution here. It's all failed, but it's fine, okay, because the save button is not appearing because the address is empty. So the save is not appearing here, which is fine. Let me just fix this test really quickly here. So we'll have a successful execution. So we have to choose the address here. Okay, save this step. Okay, it's all good now. All right, thank you. And now what I want to show you is that when I create a job, okay, and I call it J1, for example. Okay, and let's choose 2 browsers here, or even 3 browsers, okay, with the Safari. I have this new parallel execution option, which we are here to discuss, okay? And when I choose this parallel execution option, basically says that my agent is not optimized for this parallel execution. And I need to optimize it with the amount of workers suitable for my infrastructure needs. So guys, no DevOps, no Selenium Grid, no Dockers, nothing, just one click of a button, simple as that. And it says that basically it has been adjusted to 8 concurrent workers based on my hardware specification. And not only that we can parallelize execution of different jobs, we can even parallelize the targets inside the job, and we can even parallelize the tests inside the target. Okay, so if your tests are absolutely independent, if they don't have any reliance on the order of execution, you can create a concurrent execution of all the tests that you have in a job. So this is the new job. I'm going to drag this test over here, okay? And I'm going to execute it, okay? And as you can see, this icon says that this is a parallel execution. I'm just going to change something so that we won't be disturbed by the huge amount of browsers being spawned here. I'm going to choose this, you know what, let's leave it like this. Let's leave it with the standard browsers, okay? So let's get this executed, okay? So what happens now is that this job has 3 web tests, the same tests. Each test doesn't have a data source, so let's select the data source here as well for each of these tests. Okay, the data source I was saying before. Okay, and now eventually, not this execution, but the next one will be executing 3 tests. Each test will have a data source with 3 lines inside of it. And it means that it's going to have like 9 executions. Okay, some things I think to appear here. So let's give it a second here to finish up because I can't basically go back to the configuration yet. Okay. So this was the first value that has been entered there, and this didn't have any data source. And now, as I promised before, I'm just going to change it into the headless browser so that it won't disturb our demonstration here. Okay. Okay, great. As you can see, basically, both of the Safari and the Firefox browsers are currently running. Okay, so they're currently performing the test automation. And if we head to this reporting section now, which we will see, we'll have this job execution, which particularly in this case took about a minute. Okay, and didn't execute anything because the Safari terminated. I don't know, I'm not sure. Maybe I just touched it. Safari is very picky in what allowed to be done while it's running. But in any case, if I'm heading back here now, we will have 9 concurrent executions that should take place, but I have only 8 words. I execute it. Let's give it some time to finish. You will basically see, well, maybe you won't see any icons here, but eventually we'll see a report there. So what I have been saying here in this execution, usually what you see is the target and the name of the test being executed. So in a moment, we will see an execution of this parallel job being taken place here. And this is not all. Guys, bear with me for a moment again. I can even export this test now while the things are running there. I can export it into a file. Okay, this save as a file option. Okay, and I'm going to save it as a file. Okay, got this file saved here while things are running. So all of these are basically processes that currently executing tests in parallel. Okay, I can add back to, as you can see, this is the headless Chrome, okay, and the headless Firefox. Things are running here. Eventually they will finish. Okay, but while it's working, I would like to show you something else. We have the TestProject command line interface, okay, and I have a command right here ready for us to execute this test that I was saving as a file. Okay, and all this. So this is the command. Okay, and the TestProject CLI allows us as well to specify the targets that I would like the test to get executed on. So I will specify the Chrome headless and the Firefox headless, and I will also use the parallel targets option, executing this test that I've saved here. Okay, so this is the test. Okay, and now I can just let's bear a moment until this execution is completed. Okay, it's almost done. We'll see a report here in a second. It's almost done executing the whole 9 tests, right? Because we had 3 tests in the job. Each test had 3 data-driven iterations. Okay, so this is the final 3rd iteration. Okay, so we just close this execution here because it has been completed. Okay, now we refresh this. Okay, when you get the 1st job executed here. Okay, it took just a bit more than 1 single execution. 9 executions took just a bit more than 1 single execution, but it all happened in parallel because now we have 3 data-driven iterations in each test. Okay, we got 3 tests, data-driven on 2 different browsers. Okay, so this is the power of parallelizing things. And now the same capability of parallelization is going to be demonstrated using the command line interfaces. I'm running now this test on 2 different browsers. Okay, the Firefox headless and the Chrome headless. And while it's running here, move this window over here, we're going to see the same execution taking place. So it's running the test on 2 different targets, as you can see. Okay, they're progressing here and they're progressing here as well. Okay, you can see the progress happening here as well. Okay, and when it's done, if you do not want to use the TestProject hybrid cloud, you even get a local report. And here it is. Okay, nothing failed. Everything has been executed together in half minute. Okay, do you remember that 1 single execution took approximately 30 seconds? So here we have 2 different browsers running simultaneously, took the same amount of time. Okay, so a data-driven execution, different browsers will of course take much less time. And you can basically see all of this configuration right here in the agent. So my agent here now has 8 workers defined. Okay, now 0 is being utilized and 8 workers in total can be used. Okay, now another thing that I want to show you, and whoever is not familiar with it, is basically how it works for mobile. So let me connect my mobile device here really quickly. Okay, it's my Pixel 4a. Okay, and let me start. You can see that the device has been connected here. Let me start the emulator here. And here we go. Okay, this is my Android Studio emulator. Okay, we're gonna create a very simple test. Let's call it A1 on the Android. We're gonna create an application using a pre-installed application from my physical device. It's gonna be the YouTube application. Okay, we are going to demonstrate really quickly how the recording happens on mobile devices, and so it also happens on iOS devices, so it's all seamless. Okay, let's wait a moment until the application comes up. And we have the emulator here running as well. this will be my second target for an execution. Okay, so I don't do this, and it's going to be just a simple scenario. I'm going to open this settings here on my device, general or something. Let's see that the country currently defined here is contains the text United States. Okay, so it's all good. It contains the text United States. Notice that here, basically on my emulator, I can change it to something else, so the test will fail on purpose. And this is basically what the testing is all about. As you can see, the location here is Canada, and here it is United States. So it should work on my physical device, and it should fail on my emulator. Guys, again, bear with me. It's going to take another moment. So what we're going to do now, we're going to save this test. Okay, we're going to create a new Android job really quickly, call it A1 job. We're going to select these two devices here. We're going to choose the parallel execution. We're going to create a job. We're going to drag this test into this job here, and we are going to execute this job. So here I'm going to open the mirroring of the physical device that I have connected to my computer. And here I'm going to have the emulator device. So bear a moment here. We're going to see things starting to work. Mobile execution is a bit slower, I would say, especially on emulator, because it takes some time to make sure that dependencies are there. And we shall see things progressing in a moment. So that YouTube application has started here a bit more faster. Okay, and make sure that it says United States here. And on this right side, we have the emulator. And here, well, it resetted the application. Nice. So now it says United States as well. The first step is probably make change. So we can close it here. We can add back to this report section. We'll now have the report for the A1 job. You can see that it took just 30 seconds to execute it on two different devices, my physical Google Pixel 4a and the emulator. And in both cases, it was the United States text in the location. So it works in the same manner on mobile as it works for the web execution. And basically for iOS and iOS simulators, it works in the same manner. So this is your way of speeding up things and making sure that your test automation is capable and suitable for your release time schedule. Now, everything that I said so far is available on the test project documentation page. You can search for the parallel execution section here under the schedule and run test. It is a complete guide of how to basically plan your execution, what are the workers, how to configure things, what are parallelization options and stuff like this. Some examples here of how things are being parallelized. So feel free to check this out and review. And of course, as I mentioned before, the CLI is also capable of executing things so in parallel. So in the CLI, as I shown before, we have the parallel execution options. It's also capable of setting the max workers for an agent, and also capable of running things in parallel. So the parallelization of targets is something that has been added in this version of the CLI 3.0. And bear with me, as I said before, we have more coming, more information to share with you, more features in TestProject X. But this is the release of the bottleneck. This is the way that basically TestProject 3.0 allows things to be speed up and solve this major obstacle in software test automation. I'm heading back to you, Mital.
Let me just say it was wow.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I just can't. I can't hold on my excitement here.
Eldar, are you ready? We are ready for you.
Okay, so it's my turn, right? So thank you, Murat, for the great presentation. I hope that you all guys are really excited about it. We worked very hard for this, and we want to provide our community with the best that we can, and you know, to make your workflow as seamless as possible and do the best. and get the best results. Let me just quickly share my screen here. Just a second. So you can see my screen, guys?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. So the next thing that TestProject X is all about, besides the great feature of parallel execution that Marat just showed you, is something that we are being asked for some time now, and you know, we try to deliver to our community, and we are hearing what you're saying. So this is what we have besides the parallel execution, and this is GitHub integration. So basically, you will now be able to have previous versions of all of your tests that you choose to keep track of, right? So once we roll it out in the next few days, you will have the option to synchronize entire projects from TestProject into GitHub, which means that all of your tests and like in the previous version, in the next gen, we released the option to run on CLI, as Marat showed you, by saving your recorded tests into YAML files. And now we took it one step further. So now all of your projects that you choose to synchronize will be seamlessly synchronized into your GitHub private repositories. So each project will have a repository, and I will show you a quick demo of what's coming just in a few minutes. So once you choose to synchronize a project, all of the recorded tests within that project, as I said, being synchronized into the repository in the background. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to set anything besides the initial integration and choose which projects you want to sync. Because you have the option to track all the history, all the versions of your test, you will be able to quickly get a specific version and run it from the CLI, or even import it back into TestProject to make it a recorded test once again. So if, for example, you have some older version of your application that is running with one of your customers and you need to troubleshoot it and you want to run some previous version of your tests, you can now have easy access to all the previous versions and achieve this goal very quickly. So what we had up until now is the TestProject Cloud with all the add-ons and team collaboration and the reports and everything that you know and love, right? And in the previous version, we've added the option, as I said, to save it into YAML files and use the TestProject on-premise and the agent and run it through the CLI if you want to. And now Marat showed you how you can even achieve a parallel execution to save time and to shorten your cycles, right? In order to make the coverage of your tests much better. And what we've added here is basically the option to track the version of your tests, and then you will have the option to go ahead and run previous versions without the need to copy and store by yourself. It will be done for you in the background without anything that you need to do in addition, right? And of course, once you have it in Git, it becomes very easy to integrate it into your CI flows. So basically, you will have the additional option to execute your tests on TestProject agents by directly pulling specific versions from GitHub and run it like that. Right, so here's a quick example of the possible flow. So once you have your recorded tests here, you of course have the option that we already have up until now to use whatever CI tools you are using. You can execute your recorded test directly into TestProject Cloud, from TestProject Cloud using our RESTful API, or we have plugins for that for Jenkins and TeamCP at this point. But tests and jobs can be also triggered from the RESTful API. We've added the option to save and record the recorded tests in YAML to run through the CLI. So the additional flow that is now available for you is by using the GitHub repository. So once you have a recorded test that you created, your teams created, tests are being synchronized directly into GitHub. So your CI tools can basically take the latest version or a specific version from the past, right? And using the CLI, if you want to run it on premise in parallel with what Marat previously showed. So before we go to the live, I will just quickly show you what I mean here, right? So once we roll it out in a few days, what you will have is the option to go to integration. Any account administrator will be able to see this option, this new option that we've added here for Git integration. And currently we have the GitHub integration. We will in the future add additional providers like GitLab and Bitbucket perhaps. So you can see that I've already created an integration by providing my username or organization and my access key. We will have all the documentations up and ready to explain what exactly needs to be done to set up the integration. And then you choose which projects you want to synchronize. In this case, I have all my 3 projects that I have running here. So let me just hop back, and now I'm like in this project called my 3rd project. I can see that I have a login test here. I can also go, and we have the new option here, which will show the history for this specific test, right? So I can see that I have 3 commits from today, and these were the changes. I will get back to the screen in a bit. If I go in and let's say I have a disabled step here, let me re-enable it. And this is something that I've changed. Save and exit. We'll give it a second or 2 to synchronize. Let's see if I have an additional version, and great. So a few seconds ago, I have the 4th version that was added. Now, what we see in this screen is basically all the test versions that this test has. And I have several options here. I have this quick link, and if I click on it, it will take me directly to the test in my GitHub repository. Just before that, you can see that I have 3, and these are actually equivalent to the projects that I have. As I said, once you select a project to be synchronized, it will create a repository for you and synchronize all the tests. And so here, because I clicked on the latest version, I can see what changed from the previous version, right? So I just re-enabled one of my steps, and it's visible here, right? So this line was removed and this line was added. So for you guys that are familiar with Git, and this is not something new, but it now presents all of your tests in an easy way to read. And if, let's say, I go to my first project here, I can see that I have 2 tests, and each one of them has history. If I want to see what happened, I can see the history here, as well as I can see it in a test project. So just a last quick thing, in case I want to, let's say, run a specific version, I can easily download it to a YAML file, right? So now I have it in a YAML file. Let me just drop it in a folder here. So here it is. Okay, so I just put the YAML file in that specific folder, and this is my PowerShell. So let's say TestProject agent run, right? So this is the test. Doesn't look that good here in this shell, but still. And this is something that Marat showed you like a few minutes ago when he executed CLI. So basically what I did here is just checked out a previous version of my test that is more relevant for me now to test some specific, I don't know, older version of my application. And I'm running it through the CLI. And of course, it will be available in the monitor and the report will be uploaded as well. Here's something.
Sorry, they dropped the gray background in your terminals. I can barely see the command. But yeah, it's much better.
I hope that it's much better now. So it's completed, and as Marat showed before, like we have even a local report for that, right? So this is like a previous version of the test and not the latest one that we have in TestProject. So this is basically it. And as I stated before, it happens seamlessly. As you can see, there is an icon here that indicates that this project is being synchronized with Git. And you can see that in my case, all of my projects are being synced. I can easily stop the Git synchronization or manually add if I add a new project if I need to. And so it's all easily controlled from here. Again, Git synchronization is an option that will appear only for administrators. So an administrator can set it up and then the testers just do their thing and everything is being synchronized in the background and keep track of your versions so you don't lose anything else anymore. So Meital, back to you. I think that I'm done here as well.
So thank you guys. I mean, Marat, Eldar, for the incredible presentation. I mean, this is amazing. And I know many of you in the community have been really looking forward to having such a powerful capabilities. As I saw, I mean, in the chat, Avishag mentioned it so beautifully. He wrote, brilliant, everything we needed is now here. So thank you guys for writing this wonderful comments. It means so much to us and it's really a pleasure to see. And once again, thank you, Marat and Eldar. So I'm already seeing a bunch of great questions in the Q&A section. So what do you say, guys? Do you want to dive in, Marat and Eldar?
Yeah, absolutely, Meital.
Let's do it.
So I've been trying to answer a couple here, but let me just pick a few of the first ones here, so I won't let anyone. What is the maximum number of workers that can be set? So the maximum number of workers is basically built on the hardware, as I mentioned before. So if you have, for example, 8 logical processors, our suggestion is to create 4 workers. And of course, you need the sufficient amount of random access memory so that it will cover basically the browser needs. But it's all up to you. After all, you can just experiment with that and make sure that the system is not starving for resources. Or you can just follow our guidelines and set the number as we propose it to be set when you optimize the local agent. So we have a few more questions here about.
I can see that, yeah, someone is asking about GitLab. As I said, we will add in the near future also an option to connect to GitLab. So if you are running GitLab instead of GitHub, you will be able to use it. Maybe Bitbucket down the road.
Okay. We've got another question here from Navneesh, and Navneesh is asking if the parallel execution is possible when tests are running in South Lab. So yes, of course, you can use a single agent to execute parallel tests on South Labs and on browser stack, as long as you have the appropriate concurrent session purchased and enough execution minutes on these platforms. There's another question here from Brilliant Mohapi. can you iOS, mobile, Android, and web Safari and Chrome at the same time? Yes, you can. The single agent is capable of executing different jobs. You'll have to separate this into 2 different jobs, one for each platform, but you can run these jobs simultaneously. Bianca Grace.
Yes, sorry, Matt. Someone is asking, can we execute TestProject Test via AWS code build? Well, TestProject has an API, a RESTful API, which can be used for various things, and among them, executing of tests and jobs. So yeah, you can basically trigger from anywhere, and then like the new flow that is now available, you can pull from the GitHub repository the latest version or a specific version of your tests and just run it directly through the CLI on your agents. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So Bianca Grace L is asking if it's possible to parallel execution, so web and mobile running at the same time. Absolutely yes, because these are different targets, and as long as the device is not occupied, it is capable of executing something. So yeah, absolutely, you can run web tests along mobile tests in the same agent. So, how Nigen is asking if he can use the CLI to execute the test case from his own framework, integrate with OpenSDK. So the support for executing things on any kind of a framework is already there in the OpenSDK. And the CLI is just a tool for triggering tests that have been exported from the platform, tests that have been recorded. So it's kind of different things. The OpenSDK is already capable of executing any kind of test, would be a web test, a mobile test, or even API tests using the generic driver. We have a question from Muhammad Pasha. Any document to integrated parallel testing with Git Actions? So in fact, we use Git Actions even today for building our SDKs on GitHub. So you can trigger anything you want from these actions, such as, for example, setting up agent and Dockers or whatever you need. And of course, agent and Dockers can utilize the parallel execution as well. So this is the way to go. And all the documentation is again available on docs.testproject.io. And if you have a specific question, then don't hesitate. We have an excellent customer success team that you can approach, and they will answer all your needs and questions. I think this question is something that you can answer now. It's from Aaron Mann. He's asking if there is code in both GitHub and TestProject, or can we have all our code stored in GitHub to minimize exposure of our code?
Well, as I mentioned, what's being synchronized into GitHub is only the recorded tests, which are represented as YAML files, and the GitHub repositories are all private, so they are not exposed to the outside world. So basically, you can, if you are the owner of the repositories, you can manage the access by yourself and limit the exposure, right?
Yeah.
Hope this answers the question. Yeah.
There are a couple of other questions here related to privacy and things, such as from Smurti Surav Muhaptra. He's asking if he can use private repositories of Bitbucket or on-premise Git.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, currently it's GitHub, and we do plan to add GitLab and Bitbucket support in the future, possibly allowed to connect to on-premise, but this is still being explored.
So Ashutosh is asking if he can run parallel tests on Android and iOS, and yes, you can. You can do parallel execution on any kind of a test. As you had the opportunity to use the serial execution before, you have the same way of executing things in parallel right now. Someone is asking if TestProject X, MP Krishnan is asking if TestProject X is still free for all. Yes, TestProject is X, and any further version of TestProject will be free.
Yeah, it's not a TestProject X anymore, right? It's 3.0.
Yeah, it's no longer a secret.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's revealed.
Right,
It's out in the world now. Yeah.
Well, people are asking for things such as adding support for Bitbucket, and of course, we'll be extending the platform. We'll be adding new features in the future, and perhaps other providers such as Bitbucket or other Git providers. So yeah, of course, we will definitely have this in our mind. What else we've got here? People are asking about is it faster than the previous version? Well, if you're using the serial execution, then perhaps it's the same performance. But if you would like to speed up things and you're using the parallel execution, then of course it is faster than previously, because now you can run things simultaneously. It was Akshay Deshmukh question. We have a question from Shona Gagro. He's asking if it is planned to be able to parallelize the executions for jobs for the same way. So yes, not only you can parallelize things inside of a job, you can also run multiple jobs at the same time on the same agent. Of course, it depends on the amount of workers that you have defined, but yes, you can run multiple jobs simultaneously. I'm starting to repeat here myself, so I'm looking for unique questions. How does the test project work on Angular and React applications? In the same manner it works for any other web application. You can either record these applications. It's a question from Smurti Surav Mahaptra again. You can either record these applications. You can create coded tests using our SDK. There are no limits. It's all supported. And you can go ahead and just give it a try. Just as I showed before, it is simple. You just have to install an agent and you're good to go. I'm going to scroll here to the very new questions here, perhaps. Are all the agent versions are still available? A question from Janice Klefs. Yes, you can download up to the 3 last versions of the agents right below the latest version on the same agent download page. So if for some reason you're seeing that you would like to stick to the previous version, then feel free to do so. They're still supported. There's a complete backwards compatibility. What else we have? Parallel tests inside the same browser, absolutely. When you have data-driven execution, you're not interested in coverage on different targets, then yes, you can definitely execute the same test with different data on the same browser based on your needs. Atir Ahmed is asking if he can run tests in the background. So the way, because we're using the state-of-the-art frameworks, you perhaps all know, we're using Selenium and Appium, and Selenium needs to spawn a new browser instance so that it can run the test in this browser. So you can actually see a Windows showing up on your computer. So usually when you're all good to go and you would like to just execute this automation somewhere in your lab, you don't care about things happening in background or not in background. So Atir Ahmed is asking if you can run tests in background. You can run on headless browsers so that they won't interrupt your work. But again, it depends on your needs. If you would like things to run,
Yeah, and of course, you have the option to connect an unlimited number of agents to your account, right? So you can like dedicate a specific computer that will run your tests and will not interrupt your work, and you will be able to trigger them through the test project application, right?
Yeah, the scalability is, again, it's very simple. It's just, it's all there. Just set up as many machines as you need, and a single agent can now execute things in parallel. And it's actually infinite, like it's limitless. It's all up to you what you would like to achieve eventually. And it doesn't require any preliminary skills, as I mentioned before. It's just a simple setup and associating the agent with your account and building all these things using the user-friendly UI that we provide. So Nilesh Kidia is asking if we can run the same job on multiple agents like Linux, Windows, and Mac as well. Absolutely. You just have to set up a job that will get executed on a different agent that is running on a different operating system. And if you need the Safari browser, for example, you will have an agent installed on Mac. If you need the Internet Explorer browser, you will have an agent installed on a Windows machine. And you can run the same test or the same job on all these agents simultaneously, either by just invoking them manually or by using the API that we provide, or by scheduling them in this particular specific time.
Yeah, and when running through the API, you can actually override the targeted agent and the browsers. So you have the option to use the same job and execute it several times through API calls on different agents.
Right. So someone is actually asking here about, let's see. Can we launch parallel jobs at the same time or just for tests? It's Hubert Harry Pertucci is asking. Yeah, you can run tests, which we call like more like an ad hoc execution of a test. But usually when you plan your automation, you just place these tests inside of a jobs, and then you either schedule them or you trigger them from your CI pipelines. So usually when you execute in Suite, which is a job in this particular case, you can do it. You can execute them in parallel. That's the whole point.
And someone asked here, not about
there's so
management
many
tools. That about management. Yeah, TestProject has an integration with Qtest. It's off topic, but yes, you can integrate with Qtest to manage your manual and automated tests in one place.
Robert Joseph DI is asking when offline execution for coded tests will be available. So Robert, we already have a capability of executing things when the agent is not online, it's not connected to a hybrid cloud, or even absolutely offline. You can use our Open SDK right after you have installed the agent for an execution and getting local reports. You don't need to wait for this. If you have like specific needs or questions, then feel free to approach our CS team. They'll be glad to help you, but you can do it right away. Don't wait for anything.
Yeah, question about when Vinod is asking when these features will be available in SDK. So probably in the following weeks. We already started working on that, and we will release them one by one as soon as possible.
Yeah, Zvika Friedman is asking what moves him to TestProject 3.0. Is it by downloading the agent and how he can see the currently running TestProject version? So the platform is already updated to version 3.0. What you need to do is to download the new agent from the agent's download screen. And once you will have it installed, you'll see that your particular agent is on version 3.0. And then you can start using the new features. Although we will enable the parallel execution feature right after this webinar for everyone. Right now, it is.
Yeah, surprise, surprise! I just did.
Great.
So yeah, so this is an important note to say that you have to have an agent 3.0 or newer, right? In order to, like, the platform will know that you're not using the latest agent and will not provide you with the options to run in parallel, right? So you have to update to the latest 3.0 agent, and then you will see all the features for parallel execution.
Yeah, thanks, Eldar. What else we have here? So yeah, there are a few repeating questions about when the SDK is going to be available. Let's see what else we've got. Yeah, people asking if you can okay, so the documentation of the parallel execution contains all the different variants and different configuration types of what can be parallelized and how it's actually going to be executed. What's the execution plan and flow? So I strongly suggest reviewing this documentation because it supposedly should cover all the different variations of things that you were asking about. It is capable of executing tests and jobs in parallel, executing on different browsers or devices in parallel. It is capable of executing the tests inside of the job as long as these tests are not related one to another in parallel. It is capable of executing these tests with the data sources and as a data-driven iterations in parallel. And of course, you can parallelize things and just summarize up here, parallel things on a single agent, on an agent running inside of a Docker, running these things on cloud providers such as SaaS Labs and Browser Stack and so on and etc. So yeah, please refer to documentation. It's probably all there. Someone is asking, actually, we have any plans? Amol Baga is asking, we have any plans extending our Open SDK to other languages such as JavaScript? And I want to tell that basically we already have a JavaScript SDK. So just head to our TestProject group on GitHub, you'll find it there. Yeah, we know.
Actually, sorry for cutting this, but we still have a few minutes to answer a few questions, and then we will find out who's the big winner. So go ahead and pick your question so we can answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mikhail, for keeping the time here. And again, there's so many questions here. Yeah, people are writing scenarios here for things that they would like to get automated. Guys, it's so simple, so easy. Just give it a try. It's free. So not much is needed. No primary skills are required. Just give it a try, download the agent, and try to implement your automation scenario right away. Sandeep Kumar is asking how to handle conflicts for GitHub versions within TestProject. Maybe I want to address this.
Yeah, well, the thing is that this is for keeping the versions, and this will only flow one way from TestProject into GitHub. So basically, it should remain a read-only repository, right? But in case of conflicts, we will probably override and do a hard reset, right? Because we will keep track of what we have in TestProject.
Thank you. That's brilliant and happy. Yeah, probably does. Brilliant Happy is asking if a Ruby SDK is also available, not as of the moment, but maybe in the future. What else we've got here? Jack instead is asking if there's a Kubernetes setup available so that we can spin agents using services like AWS Fargate. So basically, TestProject Docker is the way to go. Our virtual agents are actually sitting on AWS Fargate. So you can feel free to grab Docker file and spin as many agents as you need, and then you can use our API to execute and register these agents with the platform to execute your tests on these agents. It's all there. And if you have specific questions about this advanced scenario, then feel free to ask them in our forum or in our customer success intercom communication channel and get a reply.
Thank you very much, Murat and Eldar. Thank you for answering all of these great questions. And thank you, our wonderful community that write here such great questions, an important one. So it's important to mention that there are really so much questions, as Murat mentioned and Eldar. I mean, we're trying to keep up and we'll do it. So feel free to continue and send us all the question and all the things you still have, like concerns or things you want to talk about it in the forum, in the chat, and we will shortly put all the links in the chat here, so you can feel free to reach out. We're always here for you. So thank you, Murat and Eldar. And are you guys ready to announce the winner? But before that, I want to thank again to each and every one of you who participate in our challenge. It was so much fun reading your comments and seeing how much you were excited about this release as much as we are. And as you know, there's only one winner. So congratulations to Christopher Wendell. You are the winner. I really hope you are here with us. But even if you're not, we will definitely be in touch to deliver the Xbox your way. So thank you so much to everyone. And one last thing, thank you once and again to Murat and Eldar. It was truly a pleasure. And thank you everyone for joining us, supporting us, and sharing your great feedback along the way. I hope this reveal was everything you were hoping for and more. Please make sure to check your inbox for the special X certificate being sent to you right now. So double check your spam folder as well if you can't find it. And of course, full recording of the event will be sent to you by tomorrow. So if you haven't already, go ahead and grab your free account at testproject.io. And for any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. The team and I are always here to help. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you at the next event. Bye-bye.